All right, everyone. Welcome to the Money Date. This is take two. Hi, Shannon. Good to have you here. We're going to continue our discussion. I welcome you to the Money Date. You are my first ever guest. You know, it's been a bit lonely on these Money Dates, so I appreciate you taking the time to come and share some of your thoughts, wisdom, and ideas. And so my topic for this week's discussion on the Money Date, I'm going to do a little bit of recap. From what I just discussed a few minutes, but you're welcome to kind of sit in and listen and be prepared. Here, you're going to get a little bit of advance notice. Be prepared to share a money win with our listeners, because that's something that I am always curious, and I'd like to share mine. So, you guys, Money Date is something that it's a special time that you need to allow yourself in your busy week so that you can pause, reflect, and take a look at where your finances are. Okay, and the three things that I like to track, they're very simple, but they're yet very difficult for most of our clients and listeners out here to actually stay on the top of it. So the first thing is our expenses. How much did we actually spend over the last week? Now, number two is our income. And I think those of you who are on the variable income, or those of you who are business owners, can relate to this a lot more. But I bet that some of you who are getting a paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, every month, also don't really have a good idea. So I need you to start paying attention to that. And of course, you guys know we have to have goals. We have to have financial goals. And when we keep our eyes on a target for that, it happens much faster. There's some kind of magic, right? And I think Shannon can agree with that. I don't know what the magic, but at least where the focus goes, all the attention, things will start kind of happening. So that's why I created Money Dates. Now, over a period of time, I was doing the Money Dates by myself. Then I started talking to Yuri about it, my husband. Now I'm going to bring these interesting and special folks that I know that could share some of their wisdom, because I can't do it by myself. So there we go. It's a bit of an evolution of what the Money Date has kind of have done for me. But it definitely has been a transformational experience. Now, all this month, the month of April, I wanted to focus on protection, and the protection from the standpoint of risk management, because there's different kind of protection that we all can think about. And so a couple of topics that we will be discussing throughout the months are the various insurance policies, because I know Shannon can attest to that, but most people are underinsured, and I think I can safely state that. Because as many policies as I review, and I am not an insurance person, right? I review it from the standpoint of making sure there's enough coverage. Shannon is probably more of a product specialist, and of course, she's a licensed insurance agent. So, but I see a lot of mistakes because we don't think about that. So as you guys tune in today and throughout the rest of the month, let's discuss how can you make sure that you have adequate protection across the board. Now, before we dive into the actual discussion and Shannon shares her wisdom, and I love this idea of umbrella. And I don't know if you know, but I'll ask the question, Shannon, why is it actually called an umbrella protection? I have my theory, but I don't know if you know the answer to this question.
So it actually makes a lot of sense, because when you put an umbrella on, think of yourself as wearing a rain jacket. So the rain jacket can cover you. Right?
Yeah.
Let's say that you're carrying some bags with you. Is the rain jacket going to cover your bags as well?
Yeah.
No, but an umbrella will, right? So what the umbrella is designed to do is to cover more than one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. So umbrella actually is an extension of your coverage. It covers everything that you have insured. It's an additional coverage for all of the items. Does that make sense?
I think it does make, that's actually what I was actually thinking. And every time when I draw or explain what an umbrella is, it's like I just draw a picture of an umbrella and say, yeah, it kind of sits on the top of, you know, whatever else you've got underneath, covers you, and then some other things. Well, okay, well, this is a great segue. So I want you guys to all meet Shannon Stiles. Shannon and I have been friends for quite some time, and Shannon has started her own independent insurance agency just very recently, but she's been in the insurance industry for quite some time, and it is her passion to help all of you out there to make sure you have adequate protection, because as I stated before, from my observations, we all need a little bit of help. And so before we dive into the actual questions that I've come up with and see if Shannon put her on the spot a little bit. Let's talk about a money. Let's talk about a money win. So a money win is something that you found out over the last 7 days, and because we meet here every week, I like to shorten the period of time because we forget, right? Life gets so busy. But what has been awesome and fantastic in your life that you appreciate and want to share with anybody, really? It could be anything, but I'm always remind you that anything we do in life, anything we say or think, will always have some kind of connection to our finances. We may not think that there is a direct connection, but I truly believe that there is. So, Shannon, you want to go first, or should I go first?
Actually, I'll let you go first.
All right, and I've just lost my little thing here. So my money win for the week actually is that we have. I apologize, I lost my little business card. We have gone through the whole rebranding process, and we now have a newly redesigned website. We now have a newly redesigned logo, and so I'm very proud of that because evolution of what I see my company, right, and how it services clients very closely ties into not only what the logo looks like, right, not what the website looks like, but what the interaction with clients is and what the message, right, and what are we actually trying to accomplish. So I'm very proud of it, and here it is. I will share. Here's what it looks like now. Hopefully you can see it. So I love it because it's very clean, it's very modern, and so forth. So this is just my business card, but new colors and everything. So kind of went away from being the traditional, money-oriented type of a firm because we actually are not. And so anyway, check out the new website, mainstreetplanning.com. It is still, all of this rebranding thing is still in the process, but I'm actually really happy because we launched yesterday and it's going well. So that's my money win. What about you?
Well, I would have to say my money win this week is my husband and I also have a company called My One Life. And Saturday, we are bringing in Coach Lou Holtz from Notre Dame to speak for us. He's a keynote speaker. And then we've got some other amazing speakers coming in. And, our community came together and we've had some amazing sponsors and we're going to be able to pull this off. So,
wow. Well, congratulations! This is awesome. Congratulations! So this live My One Life event is coming up this week.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Somehow I knew you were planning it. This is fantastic news. I will definitely make sure I share it out. And congratulations! You guys. This is your second event over the last year. So
It is. In September we had Eric Thomas come, and now we're having Coach Lou Holtz. So I'm really excited.
Yes. I know. All right, fantastic. I know it's not easy to put live events on, so you must be working your butt off, but it's all worth it.
And I just opened the agency April 1st, so it's been
Yes, definitely. Lots of gratitude. Sending you lots of gratitude. Great. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Alexi. Good to have you here. All right. Well, let's dive into the topic that we actually got here to talk about. And so why don't you tell our listeners, what is an umbrella protection? We kind of discussed why it was called an umbrella, but let's talk about the actual definition of what it actually is.
Well, okay, so the best way for me to do this is to give you a scenario where it would pay off. And imagine that you're on your way somewhere and you're driving, it's raining, and you hydroplane. You run into another vehicle head on. It's a brand new SUV. It's got 5 people in the vehicle. The father is life-flighted to the hospital, but he doesn't make it. The wife is in ICU for 3 weeks. And the kids are really resilient. They bounce back. However, those are all bills that you're responsible for now because you caused the accident. And most of the time, the coverage we see is 100, 300, 100. That's kind of the average. That's way too low because what that says is that first 100 means the bodily injury that you cause, it will pay up to, your insurance policy will pay up to $100,000 per person. Mm-hmm. Second number, the 300, means it will pay a total of $300,000 out. And I told you that you hit this car head on, but what I didn't tell you is it rolled down the hill into Quick Trip business friend. You're responsible for that as well. That's all liability. So the reason you want to have an umbrella coverage is because let's say that you have a higher limit of it will pay out up to $250,000 per person and $500,000 per incident. Well, think about it. Someone lost their life.
Right.
That means there are funeral expenses. There's a loss of an income for a family. You will end up paying money to this family. So the insurance company loves it when they only have to pay out $100,000.
Of course.
That's their contract, right?
You keep paying them the premium, right?
Exactly. And you'll be very surprised as to what the difference is between these coverages. An umbrella policy is not that expensive. But what? And I'll give you the state of Kansas. That's where I'm from. So let's say that we decided to carry 100, 300. What you're saying is you are self-insuring anything greater than $100,000 per person and $300,000 per incident. The third number, the $100,000, is the property damage. So that Quick Trip friend, the car, all of that. In the state of Kansas, what would happen is after the insurance company goes, whew, and they write the check, they then sue. And once they have a judgment, they can then garnish. Now you don't have a choice. They can garnish up to 25% of your income in the state of Kansas. Look it up in your state, see how much they can garnish. But you need to know this because so many people are underinsured. Especially, let's say that, you flip that scenario. Somebody hits you and they don't have insurance. Now you've got bill collectors calling you because you've got all of these bills. They don't care. So you want good coverage to protect your loved ones. So what happens is it pays out the 100, 300, 100, then your umbrella policy kicks in. And that will pay out up to an additional $1 million, $2 million, whatever you'll like to have.
Got it. And I actually, I have an example of a client. I've never had any client so far over the last 15 years who actually had to use their umbrellas, right? Clients do have accidents. It's typical. Yes. But I have a client that just came recently to me because she was the victim of an accident. She was crossing the street in New York and got hit by a car. Really bad accident. She had to have her knee reconstructed a number of times. She was in hospital and long recovery. And so luckily the driver who hit her had good coverage on the baseline for the automobile policy, and she had an umbrella of $1 million. So, but I actually saw how that paid out. So, my client got, I think her settlement was over $1.2 million, and she ended up with a lot less because she had to pay attorney fees, right?
Exactly.
So that's another thing that most of us don't realize, that yes, the attorneys helped her, get the case to a certain point, but it's not even that. None of that is important. This woman is going to have pain in her knee for the rest of her life, right? But it's just these little things I shouldn't say little, that help, right? And if you had to put, food on a table for your family, I think it would be even more critical. So,
well, and think about her recovery time. I mean, she couldn't work during that time period.
She didn't work.
How do you pay for your bills?
I know.
You have to make sure you have great insurance to be able to do that.
Yes. And so my next question is then, do you think everyone needs to have this kind of protection? So what if you don't drive, right? Because this is the question I get from my clients, especially in New York or, San Francisco Bay Area. A lot of us use Uber or Lyft or, hey, I don't drive, or I don't own a home. I'm a renter. What are you talking about?
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about a renter, okay? Let's say that you're out. You have a client who rents. They don't drive, and they're out golfing, and they swing their club and don't notice somebody's behind them. Whose fault do you think that is?
Well, the person who swung the golf.
Exactly, the golf club. You'll be sued, right? They'll determine whose fault it is. But in your renter's policy or your homeowner's policy, you have coverage. It's called family liability coverage. A lot of companies call it different things. it'd be, you know, anywhere up to 100,000, 300,000. But let's say that you did something else. I have a good example, actually. We had a customer whose adult son was home from college, and he was at a friend's parents' house, their property. Good kids, weren't doing anything wrong. They were out there, you know, shooting guns. Well, it wasn't our customer. It was his son. Wasn't his property. Wasn't his gun. But it was his son's finger, who was listed on his policy while he was at college, that pulled the trigger. The bullet missed the can, hit a tree, ricocheted, and hit the neighbor.
Oh my gosh.
So it's more than just covering your property. It's covering anything you're liable for that is not, now, if you're out committing a crime, it's not going to cover you. But you know what I mean? It's the things we don't think about. And these are the things we should think about, or you need a really good agent that's protecting you and thinking about that for you, because these policies can cost $200, $179 a year.
Yes, very, very inexpensive for such a big peace of mind. And so, you recommend, and we do as well, is that for parents who have kids in college, right?
Hey, those are my favorite. Now, those are the ones that my son's on my policy right now, but as soon as he moves out, he will have an umbrella policy because he is paying money to get a higher income. Mm-hmm. Do you really want to leave that unprotected? It's not about what you can pay right now. Mm-hmm. That judgment goes until it's satisfied, so it may go your whole life. And you're going to earn more to protect your future income. So those are my favorite. College kids, every single one of them should have an umbrella policy. Mm-hmm.
And so while they're in college, you recommend for them to be on their parents, and then as soon as they're on their own, they should configure their auto, and if they're renters, and then on the top, the umbrella?
Yeah, that's what we do here. Now, we have the ability to do that because our policy, our homeowner's policy, allows us to cover students that are resident students. Just make sure that it's okay with your policy and your state. States are all different. Insurance companies, all insurance companies, I'm with Allstate. So we have different policies. Make sure that's okay and that your agent understands that they're off at college. And yeah, keep them on your policy until they move out and they're out of college. Yeah. But then make sure they have an umbrella. I mean, it's crazy not to. For $179, think about what 25% of your income is a month.
That's substantial.
Probably more than $179, $200, $300 a year, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So one of the questions that I frequently get to, and I defer to to my friends like you who are actual agents, because and I see this a lot, that sometimes clients will have a policy with one company, auto policy with one company, then the homeowners or renters with another, and then, oh my gosh, on top of that, you want me to get an umbrella. Where do I go? What do I do? So is there a best practice consolidated into one? And sometimes clients shop by price, which, I mean, I get it. It makes sense, but...
No, bad idea.
So what's the best strategy?
I want to know why I say that. Don't shop by price, because the only way somebody can get you a lower price is by cutting your coverage. So you're saving money now. You may be saving dollars, maybe $10 a month, maybe $100 a month, but they're cutting you in the back end where you need the most. They're taking away the coverage, and that means if you need it, I always tell everybody, if I had a crystal ball, I would only write exactly what my customer needs, but I don't. So I have to imagine that every single customer that walks in here is going to be that worst case scenario, because I need to protect their family. I need to protect their loved ones, because this is what leaves people homeless. So don't fall for that price thing. Don't play the price game. It may save you pennies, dollars, maybe even $100 a month, but you're talking hundreds of thousands on the back end if you need it. It's not worth it.
I agree, like that. But I know you also recommend consolidating under one insurance company or spreading, I guess, spreading the risk. Is that the thought?
Yeah. So I'm not saying don't think about price, right? Mm-hmm. Take advantage of all of the discounts that you have. Bundling at the discount. When you put everything in with the same insurance agency, you're going to get a lower rate because you get a discount for having multiple policies. Put it all together. You know, go with a reputable company. Allstate's been around for so many years. We have a reserve. The reserves, insurance companies have to have a certain amount of money in reserve to cover claims. So it's okay to have all of your policies in with one reputable company. Don't worry about that. Save the money.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, that's kind of what I would recommend too. Now, one of the last questions I have is, what does it actually not cover? Because I think there's also a misconception about, oh, I've got an umbrella policy, and I can think about, so some of my clients have rental properties, right? And that comes up a lot. So what does it actually not cover? Can you give us examples of situations where it wouldn't be useful?
Okay, so you need to make sure, like I said, all insurance agencies are different. There are certain companies like Allstate, we can't write anything that we don't have covered. So if we have your home and your auto and you have a rental property, but you don't have the rental property with us, we can't write that item. Mm-hmm. So we won't be able to do the umbrella policy. We do have the ability to write an umbrella policy with a third-party company to cover everything. So make sure, again, it's not about the insurance company as much as it is your insurance agent. If your agent isn't taking the time to sit with you, figure out what assets you have. Ask those questions, the hard questions. How much money do you make? What assets do you have? If they're not doing that, they're not the right agent for you. They're order takers, is what we like to say. You don't want that because you want somebody that's going to uncover all of your assets. If you don't have that rental policy written on that umbrella policy, it will not cover it.
Got it. Understood. Yeah, for the time that we've been allotted for today, if there are any last-minute thoughts you have, Shannon, that maybe is something I didn't know to ask you, what would be useful for our listeners?
It has nothing to do with umbrella policy, but it does have to do with insurance. We protect all of our material items, right? But we often do not protect the most important asset that we have, and that's our lives. We see it more and more often now. People are coming up with cancer and diseases that make them uninsurable at an early age. So you want to get a life insurance policy. Whether it's a term policy, permanent policy, don't be fooled by, I have it at work, because when you leave your job, you probably leave that policy. Life insurance is the most important policy, and I'll tell you what, it's the one policy I promise will pay out. The other policies I can't promise will ever pay out. But that one.
Because we all probably gonna die at one point or the other. Well, great. I have that's a guaranteed fact, right? Fact 100%. Of life. All right. Yes. Let's just hope that you aren't going to need it, but it's good to have. I appreciate you joining me this evening, actually, late evening your time, to share your thoughts. I do have an interesting quote to close with, and for our listeners, if there are any questions, put them in the chat, share out the video, let your world, your friends and your relatives know why umbrella is something that everybody needs to consider, and reach out to us for questions. But here's a quote that I kind of like it. It does mention the word umbrella. So the mind is like an umbrella. It's most useful when it's open. And it's Walter Gropius. Hey, why don't we keep our minds open and see what happens? Good evening, everyone. Shannon, thank you so much again. Take care.
You too.